Okay.
So during the audit committee, we received the draft budget memo, which we had selected as the place where we wanted to, the first thing we wanted to start working on. The whole parking thing has been pushed forward due to negotiations till at least this fall. So we needed a topic to begin work on. And Quinn is right here to check me if I go wrong. So we reviewed that, but there had been a glitch and it had been received less than 24 hours before the meeting. So we tentatively approved the budget committee draft memo. But we then had a special meeting this past Monday in which we unanimously approved the budget draft memo. Hang about, please. It made several suggestions that I had understood from council. Sorry, the memo I sent you did not open. That I had understood after the budget workshops last year had proceeded from council. Eric suggested that we involve the public more fully, make certain that public engagement could happen. Part of that was just technical and we didn't bring it up because the microphones weren't fully functioning, but also there wasn't really that much time. I proposed, and these are things that I thought were the general consensus of council, and so I'm bringing them back to you. They're in the memo, but I'm bringing them back to you at this time. Beginning work, lengthening the time between when the budget drops and when the final Q&A comes, so that we're not dealing with a fire hose of information. Even though we're better at it this year than we were last, or I at least, it's a lot of information and it's difficult for us, I believe, to make a thoughtful review. So one possibility is to break out, you know how at the beginning of the budget presentations, people would come and say, this is my department, this is our department, this is what we do, these are the projects we're currently working on, this is what we want to work on next year. Well, that's all informational and doesn't necessarily require finance. So those I proposed could be pushed back, into September or even August. And once you actually get the memo in a form that you can read, I'm so sorry, you'll see that Jenny Sims, the auditor, pulled together a lot of comparisons to local jurisdictions and to the great and good Roseville, Minnesota, which has a particularly excellent budget presentation. Bainbridge Island has a fantastic budget. Here's the thing, Bainbridge Island has 10 people who do nothing all year, but work on the budget and work on presenting it. So I made those two suggestions, feeling that they would be in line with what council was looking for as a way to make the budget, to give us a chance to do more thoughtful review. And in fact, one new member of the committee they said the community was very upset at how council dealt with the budget. They had not been aware that we saw it when the public saw it. So I think that this would be directly helpful to the community. So I will send this to you again. I just discovered that the link was broken. It's several pages, and I think you'll agree that Jenny did a really excellent job of finding similarities and doing comparisons. And that's about it, except that since it's now almost mid-March, if we're going to adopt some of these suggestions, I strongly urge that we take it up at either the next meeting.
So actually, I had a general business item, which ties right into this, which was I talked to Director Riley about options, and he briefed me what's been done in the past. Now, if I got it right, Director Riley, one option is Monday of the start of budget week, we could dive into the general, have a regular Wednesday council meeting, Thursday, get the brain download from Public Works, and then have all week and the following Thursday do our deliberation to add an extra week in there. Was an option that make sure I got that right. And then I was gonna ask council if they were good with that, since they need to schedule out the year.
Yeah, that is correct. There's a little nuance in the following week. On Wednesday of that week, we actually take action on rates and fees and property tax. So you would actually be voting on an item prior to deliberating on the complete budget. So we could make an adjustment to move the Thursday proposed deliberations to a Tuesday or to a Monday. That way you're not voting on something prior. We've done that in the past. We've actually voted before on rates and fees and then went to deliberations on Thursday. It just makes it a little bit kind of awkward when you're voting on revenue sources, and then deliberating on the complete budget. So, but either way is fine. But it would be in the following week.
I'll go back to you on if that was in line with audit recommendation.
Okay. Can we put a pin in this while I go and dig up the correct link so that I can actually send it to, do you have it, Christine, to be able to send it to council?
It will, yeah, I think Christine said it will be available shortly.
It'll be available like shortly within a minute?
I don't know.
No, I just want to make sure that everybody has it now. And for me,
Yeah, so we'll get the memo soon, but I think I was looking for feedback on doing that different scheduling to allow more time if folks liked it or not, just because I think we do want to move on setting that schedule now this far in advance. Yeah, Michael.
no.
Right. Yeah, and sorry, I just realized microphone. So Michael made the point that when the administration finishes, it goes out to everybody at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the proposal is to do it so that we just have an extra week of after we get the brain download, after we see the budget. Council has a week to talk to the public, get feedback, and deliberate and think about it more ourselves before we go straight into the deliberation. Jennifer, then back to Anna.
I feel like maybe I'm even stealing Councilman Younger's thunder, but we don't always have to wait for a budget. We can propose a budget as council too. So that's something for y'all to consider as we're thinking about budget season.
Well, yeah, I just want to keep this really scoped on that week there, or that week or two. Certainly we can talk budget and requests way in advance, but this is just specifically for setting up that week for staff. Well, I'm not hearing any objections.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
gives more transparency and more opportunity for the public to weigh in as well, I'm all for. And it doesn't really change anything, does it? It just extends, it still fits within any requirements we have and.
Right, yeah, we can't spend 2 months on it.
Yeah.
But this would allow extra time. I'm sorry, I saw Eric went back to Anna.
Perhaps it's a marginal improvement. I would suggest you don't make a decision tonight. I would suggest you run this by Lori Smith. The budget dates are set the way they are for a reason. And I know Mike's got good insight on this. The main point of this, in my opinion, is building on what Jennifer said. We heard last fall from the public expressing frustration that basically this was a done deal. I felt this way for years as a council member, that we get this big budget, however, hundreds of millions of dollars. And it just never, I just shake my head every year going, we're arguing over $25,000. And it's, I think last year I was literally banging my head on the table for some items. But the point is, the council's wishes should be expressed to the administration and the public's. They don't have as much opportunity as we do. We don't express what we want in the next budget. Shame on us. But the council doesn't have that, or the public doesn't have that ability. So we should be requesting well beforehand public's input. Here's our current budget. Do you have any suggestions? If we're sincere about public outreach. We need to be proactive. I don't care about moving up 2 days a week or whatever for the whole budget process. But if we really want public opinion, if that's what we're saying, well, gosh darn it, let's do it. And then council should be talking through the council president. We should have study sessions saying, this is what I'd like to see in next year's budget. Give it to administration, have them work with it. And then they can tell us why they didn't incorporate it in the budget instead of giving us a budget saying, here it is. And then we fight over $25,000. That's the point.
So here's my suggestion is to go through finance committee for start talking about some of that extra public outreach, how to maybe coordinate some of that, see what the bandwidth is. Because as I said, we don't have a ton of staff in the city, but I absolutely like that. And then, I guess the decision I'm looking for doesn't affect any of that. We can be talking with the council. Right now, there's a 5th Wednesday in May I've got set aside if we want to use it to talk budget in advance, which I think is a great idea. But I don't see there's any objections to shifting this back to give at least an extra week for nothing else, us as a council to absorb all the information and proposed budget, and take changes. Gwen.
I don't have an objection to that. I just think decision should be held off until everybody has a chance to digest Jenny's memo, because it did include some really great recommendations, including adding visuals. There were things other than just timing. So I'd like everybody to see that work product before we make a decision.
Director Riley, is that all right? Wait 2 weeks? Is that going to affect the?
No, not on the calendar. I'm gonna say that, as Councilmember Younger just pointed out, the process of the dates of the budget, when the budget gets released to when we have to adopt, there's not a lot of wiggle room. It's set. You have to adopt before December 1st. But the proposal that Council President proposed is what we did 3 years ago. We went to 1 week session the year after that, got great feedback, said the information was ready, available, and in their head. So by the time we deliberated, they knew what we talked about. We followed that up, got great feedback, and now we're kind of back saying one more time. So we're flexible within those 2 weeks. I've read the memo from the auditor's office, or the auditor, which I think is very useful. It's got a lot of the information. I will say some of the comparables have large budget teams, so recognize that we have a team of 1 and then myself. Obviously the city as a whole does a lot of work to put that together. The timelines are tight. It's a lot of information. So, and also one of the things they highlight in there is we're talking about outreach. It's council member budget, like town hall outreach. It's not the staff going out. It's getting, if you want something early, I would recommend you make a decision early that you're doing town halls and asking what the public wants, and then we can hear that. Because it's the mayor's budget that we're proposing, and that turns into the council budget. I will say the mayor's budget is based on our priorities and goals that are set at our retreat, and also the kind of mayor's initiatives throughout the year. That's how we derive the budget. And I don't think last year's was too deviated from what I think we heard from council. So that's kind of the information we take as we compile it. But it'd be the information early, because we're starting personnel budgeting starting in 2 weeks, and we're in the budget mode. So sooner the better, but 2 weeks isn't going to hurt anything. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. So let's postpone that decision on what to do with budget week for 2 weeks and keep talking through finance and at our next council meetings about how to do outreach more early and often. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, perfect. Sorry, back to you to close out auditor, and then we'll keep moving here.
Okay, so I have the memo, but it is in Korean.
All right.
I'm not
No worries. Okay, so that'll get distributed, and anything else on audit
Downloaded
committee on it, or?
Korean. Go figure. I think that there's a lot in the memo that very clearly defines what the end date, like when we have to be done with the budget.
I think we hammered this subject, so
but
if there's
that's-
anything else non-budget from audit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so please read the memo, and what kind of, just asking, are we gonna put this on like as a regular agenda item in 2 weeks?
Let's revisit this in 2 weeks, back under general council business, and we'll give direction on
Thank you.
the timeline. Sorry, Eric. Yeah.
Just real quickly, I'd like some feedback on what a 2-year budget would look like if the city would consider that. Pros and cons.
Fair enough. Okay, let's talk about that in 2 weeks as well. Okay. All right, let's go now to Finance Chair Jennifer